Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Boost Your Biology podcast. Today, I have a special guest joining me in, Justin Frandson. Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Lucas, for having me. Appreciate you.
Awesome. So maybe, Justin, do you want to let my listeners know, I guess, a little bit about you, who you are, and, what your main mission is?
Yeah, I'm an athleticism performance coach. Athleticism.com is one of the sites I started over 2 decades ago, working with amateur and professional athletes on human performance. And I work at the body at a deeper level with nerves, just clearing stressors out. Clear the stressors out, they become better right away. I honed in on most recently, within the last decade or so, was EMFs as a big biostressor. So food, drink, air, EMF, electromagnetic frequencies from man-made sources, were one of the biggest, most proliferating factor out there that was a big stressor on the body. So I rolled out some products to help people sleep, recover, and repel the EMF, because I saw the athletes breaking down and just wearing a smartwatch, their whole arm would go weak.
Cool. So maybe, Justin, we can dive into, I guess, how EMFs can sort of act as a stressor on the body, and what are some of the physiological changes that occur in the body from EMF exposure?
Well, let's break it down. I mean, you're looking at the biology here. So let's understand the biology of our planet and our bodies. We are electromagnetic beings. The planet is electromagnetic planet. Everything is electric. Everything has a resonance. Everything has a frequency. And so we are one with the universe. So the universe, we have plasma. That's what these waves and particles travel in. So you're in Australia, I'm in Newport Beach, California. We wouldn't be able to have this talk if it weren't for the waveform technology. Now, this man-made stuff that we're talking, it's one directional. So it's going directly to you and it's going directly to me. If it distributed equally in every direction like the sun does, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. So this is really simple physics, biology. We do really well with the frequencies that are lower and slower, like the Schumann resonance, the healing pulse there, 7.83 hertz or waves per second. That's when you're sleeping. That's what our brainwave state is at. 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz or waves per second. The difference with this EMF stuff is that router or your smartwatch, your cell phone, it's 2.45 billion waves per second. That's a one-directional polarizing waveform when we have that negative charge coming from below, and we do well with low and slow. So it's just so different than how we rev, sleep, and optimize. So understanding that biology of it and the physics of it first is the most important part. As far as how it affects you, I mean, we're looking at Dr. Martin Pall out of Washington State University. He did so many studies, but realized that there's a vibration effect. So there's a secondary effect from man-made EMF, that there's a vibration. It opens up the voltage-gated calcium channels, allows positive calcium to go into a negative cell. That excess calcium causes tremendous cell and DNA damage. So that's what we're really looking at. And from there, your eyes, your teeth, your thymus, your intestine area can decharge. You'll start to see cognitive stuff first. And then, so there's level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 would be focused energy, sleep, stress, anxiety, fatigue, ringing in the ears, headaches, bloody noses. Then level 2 would be muscle twitching, more serious migraines, nausea, vomiting, like the Havana cohort symptom, where it was the first attack of U.S. embassy workers on foreign soil with microwave from Cuba and China a couple years ago, the well-known event. And then level 3 EMF would be the bigs: cancer, suicide, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, and now what we're seeing is lack of fertility.
Crazy. I definitely have heard about the implications on the calcium channels and, affecting that, and even affecting blood-brain barrier permeability, so increasing the leakiness of the blood-brain barrier. So these sort of EMFs, you want to sort of maybe break down the different types of EMFs that we're sort of exposed to?
You got it, Lucas. We have electricity, which has a little magnetic resonance in it. We have dirty electricity, And then we have wireless technology. So electricity, just get a milligauss meter. You can buy them online, anywhere, and for really inexpensive, $125, you can get a good one. And then go to StetzerElectric.com and get a dirty electricity meter. So electricity is your outlets, all the low level frequencies in your home. A dirty electricity would measure the sparking in those lines from rats eating lines outside, and the signals going in and out of a junction, they're not meeting the same level. So if one's not communicating the same, you're going to have higher static in the line. If there's dim switches in a home, you'll see the static go up and down because it's attempting to keep to the level of the lighting that you're requesting. And solar on a home. So solar causes lots of sparking. Again, trying to keep the level that you're wanting. Big batteries storing that right on your home, causing that vibration. And then you have all the wireless signals. So the wireless would be anything from your cell phone, your router, your smart meter, which is a two-way router communicating with the gas and electric company, all the Alexas, the Nest, the Ring doorbells, like all these wireless TVs and apparatuses. So those are ping from like anywhere from 2.45 billion waves per second on up to 60 to 90 billion waves per second with a 5G. So those are the three levels. You can buy 3 meters, go online and quantify these levels up to a certain point. Each meter increases the spectrum of the speed of the wavelength. So milligauss would meter 50 to a couple 100,000 waves per second. Then the next step up would be GS units. It measures from several 100,000 on up to 1 million. And then you get to the acoustometers, the wavelength, the speed of the wavelength, it would be anywhere from 1 million to a couple billion. But the tricky part is right now is these telecom businesses are rolling out this an Internet of Things, this grid, and there's really no control of what level they're rolling out. So we don't know exactly. There's no meter to meter that level. All the handheld meters meter out just on a simple cell phone. So it's a little tricky. I work with SEALs, Navy SEALs, and some really hotshot clients, and they use this stuff as weaponry. This is defense mechanisms that we've seen in the past. So the telecom is literally in charge of our safety, for that matter, like right now, because they can turn the stuff up or down, and we don't know what level it is at, really.
Yeah, interesting. And in terms of like, if you were to rank the worst offending device, like let's say if you were to rank maybe like top 5 items in someone's household, that would be like from worst to maybe like least worst, like what would you say would be like top 3?
The smart meter is probably number 1 because it acts like basically a cell site on your home, and it's a two-way router. It pings into your home, reads every device every 7 to 15 seconds, and then pings out to their substation to give them the level to reading. So that sporadic pulse is more chaotic for the body, is what they're testing it at. And then I think the routers in the homes are really profound as well, because people mostly keep them on all night. So you're getting, all the stuff on all night, and a lot of people have them in their bedroom. So you're not getting into that deep restorative sleep. So that would be the second one. I think the phone, the laptops, just putting stuff on your lap or devices on you would be the next third. But 2 out of the 3 are self-induced, like literally. So we can start to change these dynamics in our home, and we can put routers behind doors. We can shield at least one direction so they're pointing the other way. In Australia, I don't know if you can opt out of a smart meter. We can here. So you can go convert it back to analog. You just pay a little more. But if you can't, make sure the smart meter's here, it's directing that energy away from your bedroom at the other direction. So it's at least it's not going straight at you. There's paint, there's tint, there's a lot of different solutions and proximity awareness things that we can do as well.
Yeah, interesting. And I know you said at the start you work, very closely with professional athletes. I'd love to hear about maybe some things you've seen, like with athletes, I guess, from, using things that block EMF, such as these grounding bags, and how that's benefited their recovery and performance.
Definitely. Well, we started rolling out these grounding bags. So the big thing is physics wise, what's really cool is even though these one directional forms are man-made and they mess with our REM patterns and our sleep, and we can categorize like literally all the pandemics in the history of the globe, and they're directly correlated from the book The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. Have you read that one?
Did Jack Cruz mention that book at one stage?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So Tom Cowan did a big interview, MD did a big interview on that. Anyhow, but literally it categorizes all the pandemics in the history of the world and directly correlates them to electromagnetic shifts in our atmosphere. And it's either cosmic or man-made. And so Cowan equates it like to the dolphins. If they're swimming in the ocean and they all get sick, you're going to say, who polluted the water? So our water, our environment is air, plasma. And that's where the waves and particles travel. So if there's a cosmic shift, we're going to have shifts in our REM patterns, and our sleep's going to be disrupted. Our bodies are going to adapt, produce a virus. And it's no different if it's a man-made shift. Like 1918, we introduced radio waves for the Spanish flu. Hong Kong flu, we introduced satellites in the Van Allen belt. World War II, we introduced a radar. First time globally. So this book cites, categorizes all these different poisons for our world and then directly correlates them to our body. So it's wild to see how we can adapt to this stuff, which is what we do. We just produce a virus, get the symptoms, and then you're adapted. But what the other part that I was getting to is we can convert a waveform from something that's unhealthy to healthy. So that's physics. You can change a one directional waveform and allow it to be more of a scalar wave, which distributes equally in every direction. And that's what our grounding bags do. So we found that's what the earth does for us. That's what we get, that Schumann resonance. We pull the electrons from the negative ionic charge. And this is the earth in the bag. And it's just like walking barefoot in a bag, where you can take those negative ionic charge and convert a waveform from something that's one directional to beneficial to us. So that's what, they're EMF rocks grounding back too.
Awesome. Yeah, because I've spoken briefly about the benefits of earthing, from resynchronization of the cortisol awakening response and some other benefits. Did you want to explain just real briefly the actual mechanism behind how earthing works, or how they believe it actually helps the body?
Definitely. Well, the man-made stuff, it destructured water. It just messes up all these different channels, as we've talked about. And the way the earth works is, the universe works this way. We operate like a battery. So we have, Eileen McCusick explains it really well in some of her books with the tuning forks. But we have a negative ionic charge coming from below. We have a positive ionic charge coming from above. So if we're wearing shoes all the time, we're stuck inside and we're getting blasted from these satellites that are rolling out with one directional waveforms. As Dr. Mercola would say, we're EMF'd. Like we're not getting grounded by nature. So Clint Ober wrote this book called Earthing. It's a great book, but he shares on you won't have disease or pain when you're really grounded. And it's that profound, because your body just innately starts to heal and the circulation flows. And so grounding is one of the essence of life and one of the big components to staying healthy and keeping your charge, because all these cells, every part of your body has a different charge. And so when you get them decharged, and they'll have different, and it's okay if they have different pH balances. Dr. Berlando will say some parts of your body should have like 6.4 pH. Like that's healthy. So you won't hear doctors say that. Everyone's like alkaline, and he'll say sometimes alkaline in these areas makes you sick. So it's really wild to see how intricate our body is. And it blows me away that people think that a shot or a drug can surpass what Mother Nature does and God has provided for us, because we're the most incredible healing system ever. And the universe, we're so one with it. The viruses, fungus, bacteria, we're built on these things. They're our adaptive system. And we rev really slow with the universe. So again, we pull these electrons from Mother Earth. We get the positive charge from the sun. We pull in minerals from the air and the plasma and these different ecosystems. I mean, we get so much minerals just from our breath work and from being in different ecosystems. Zach Bush says, breathe in your ion biome, like literally build that gut health up, and you can get it from the air as well. So the nutrients that's just in our air, and to be locked in a room or have, just in a hotel. I was in a hotel for a week and it just ruined me just at a trade show, but it's not good for your health. And so we want to get back to really understanding how the universe works, how we work, and then how we're one with it.
Yeah, really well explained. When it comes to athletic performance and maybe like the muscle recovery and DOMs and things like that, have you seen sort of benefits with, athletes in terms of, their recovery at all?
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest part, Lucas, is their sleep.
Yeah.
So the sleep is where all the restoration happens. So when you can get 3% sleep, on up to 50, mostly for sick people, they'll see the higher levels. You get a healthy athlete, you add 1% to their game, and like that's all the coaches want. They're at that finely tuned machine. But when you could get 3% deeper restorative sleep, they're going to start to heal better. Again, I do lots of nerve work. And so when there's neurofatigue, it's a stressor on the body. So the muscles just don't fire as fast. So if I did a C6 test on your bicep, I said, hold strong, and you went weak, treat that nerve, and then boom, you're strong. Like these nerves travel 325 miles an hour through the body. And guess how they communicate? Through light. When you see someone like yourself, they're glowing, they're healthy, really good energy. And then when you see someone older and dying, they're like a tree, they're stiff. What happens to a stiff tree? It's going to die. It's going to fall over, bend and break. And so when they're pale, an elderly person is pale, their cells are saying, hey, we're at the end of our life. They're not communicating as fast. So our body really communicates through light. So I use a lot of light in our treatments, and we can see these athletes, through the nerves and restore their nerves from being downregulated from a trauma, from a stressor, from EMF, or what have you. So it's really tangible. We see them break down from driving Teslas or like these electric cars, and then just being all EMF'd all over. They go back to their hotel room during like camp, and then they're playing video games right in front of a giant screen, and hotel room and crappy air and eating bad food. And it's like, you guys, like, you're the most primed in the world. And I guess their life force is strong enough at that point of their life to fend it off, but not everyone's is. So if you're younger, you're older, depending on your blood type. If you're Rh negative, you're more resistant. If you're positive, you're not as resilient. So you're going to be like me, where I call it a gift, where it's more of a sensitivity to be able to feel energy and understand, like, I can't put a smartwatch on because it'll hurt my wrist.
Wow. Incredible stuff there, Justin. I'd love to dive into some of the strategies to detoxify the body from EMFs, because obviously our number one goal is to reduce exposure. So like eliminate the root cause. So like avoid exposure, use wired devices. And then from a detox perspective, things that come to my mind are powerful antioxidants, glutathione, maybe some mild calcium channel blockers. But, what else can we do to like help the body to, detoxify from EMF buildup?
Definitely. Well, first, let me start with our grounding bag, and then I'll get into some nutritional components, because there's a lot of great nutritional components that can help with flushing. Because the flushings, if you're not methylating, if you have a mutation to your genes for methylating, then you're going to be more susceptible as well. So this detox is really important. But the reason I want to start with the grounding bags first is more of what Bruce Lipton shares. And you're familiar with Bruce Lipton?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
He feels that your health lies in your chi, in your energy, in your biofield. Chemistry in your body second. So we want to start to build that life force up. So the way we can do that is by detoxing that energy field. And you could do it through tuning forks with Eileen McCusick, through generations of history. We can do it through grounding. But the cool part about this is we can accelerate it with a grounding bag. So you can actually hold on to a grounding bag. I'd put it on my lap, but for video purposes, I'll hold it up here. And you tap on it. Just tapping on the bag will 10x your energy. Then you cover your eyes and, tap and breathe. You cover your teeth, tap and breathe. You cover your thymus, your upper chest area, lower neck, right below the neck. Tap and breathe. And then you cover your intestine, small intestine area below your belly button. Tap and breathe. Do each of those for about 10, 15 seconds. It acts like a homeopathic tincture. So you're a naturopath. So when you activate the properties in it, because these have moisture and magnetic properties, you're activating the properties in the grounding bag. It, through applied kinesiology, we can direct them to those areas that get decharged first from EMF. We can recharge that body, and secondary, we can flush your energy field, your biofield. So it cleans your field and it 10x's your energy. So number one, we got to flush that field and then recharge the body. Now we get into some of the supplements. So when you guys purchase the grounding bags and you get home, you finally get them because you're in Australia and it takes forever and you have to pay duty and all this other junk. And I don't know what the duty costs are, but they're a lot and it's a pain. But I apologize because we're not in control of the duty over there or any other country. But once you get them, what I want you to do is to integrate with the bag and do that bioflush. Because if someone's toxic and then you have pure good, they're going to clash. And until you flush that biofield, that's when they're not going to integrate as well. So this detox protocol is essential with the grounding bags. So this is an accelerated do it. So grab the grounding bags, tap on them. That'll go through that. If there's someone that still isn't sleeping well, what it means, Lucas, is there's a deeper layer of toxicity that we have to get into the chemistry, because the nuclear will hide behind heavy metals, as you know. So this stuff hides. How do we get to those? Well, there's so many different things you can do. The zeolites, the shilajits, the carbon C60, Alpha Vedic, ALFA-VEDIC is one of my favorites out there. They have a ton of different stuff. The cell salts will help balance that polarity in your body and help the conductivity. You can also get Sarabanan, Saraban, and it has oh man, I don't have it right here. I'm looking if I have it. She has a kit where she has some scalar charged water with some silver, and then she has some iodine, and she feels that that's really a strong detox for the body, and definitely a shot, the one that a lot of people are having to get. So that's super powerful. A really simple detox protocol that everyone could get is just go to the store and get apple cider vinegar, get bentonite clay, and protease, which is a digestive enzyme. It's a proteolytic enzyme. So the three of those together is a simple flush. Just follow instructions, take a little bit each day, do that for several days. And that's our go-to for a simple EMF internal flush.
Awesome stuff. So I guess as with, most detoxification protocols, there's going to be some degree of disturbance that occurs in the body. It might be a bit of turbulence, or, maybe the individual feels a little bit uneased. So, what can somebody look out for there when undergoing detox?
So this is one of the coolest things, Lucas, is when we do typically go through flushes, we can feel crappy. And the reason we're feeling crappy, guess why? It's because we get decharged. When you have the grounding bags and you keep doing the tapping and recharging, you don't feel crappy, and you can actually flush this stuff out of you. So that's been a super fun thing to share with everyone, is because the reason we feel crappy when we detox is because we lose our polarization, and now we don't have to.
Wow, amazing. So these grounding bags, I mean, I'm familiar with earthing mats. I've got myself one for my desk underneath because I got a treadmill desk. I've got the earthing mat underneath my keyboard, because if I don't, otherwise I'm zapping everyone that comes near me. But these grounding bags, can we look at some of the applications? So I know you mentioned you just literally rest it on your body and then tap. Any other areas within someone's lifestyle they can integrate it?
Oh, definitely. So for athletes, first I'll just start there because it's simple, but any concussion, contusion, any challenge, circulation challenge, I call every health challenge a circulation challenge. So any challenge area, just ace bandage around it for weeks. And guess what? It'll get recharged and circulation will go through because that's what grounding does, and pulling that circulation and that negative ion charge back to those areas. So that's number one. For protocols for a healthy home, because a lot of people, are at home or have to have been at home and they're going, how do I make my home a healthier home? And the grounding bags end up, you put one on or under your bed at the head of the bed and you keep it sealed. You use it as is. Because again, remember, no one's ever seen these crystals. They're not like shungite, I think, that you're wearing, but they have a moisture content and magnetic properties to them. So when people would find these colloid crystals, they'd mine them, they just turn to dust. Well, we seal them, and the properties in them are even better with magnetic charges than a lot of the other ones. And then they have the moisture on top of it. So you have to keep them sealed, use it as is, put one on your bed or under your bed, lean it against the leg of the bed if it's under, you want it touching it, and you'll get a deeper night's sleep. But I call a bed a source because if your bed's touching the wall, it's charged to the level of the outlet. That's low level radiation, for our whole life. That's a low grade stuffer. That's going to affect your REM patterns and not allow you to get into deeper sleep. So number one is put one on or under your bed, desk, or car seat. Those are the three primary stressors. Then to clear 2,000 square feet, you get at least five together, and you want to put them on a pile on the floor. 5 together on the floor will clear 2,000 square feet plus one on or under your bed. And that's pretty much how we use them. When they're on the floor, they ground. If they're tile floor, closer to a bathroom with metal pipes, because the vibration will carry through your home. So we thought about all the stuff. They test better together than spread out all over the place, because more of the mass of the mind. This is frequency healing. This is resonance healing. So they exponentially get stronger the more they're together. So one will clear a whole bed about 70 some feet away from that bag. But to clear a big space, you need about 5. And if there's solar on a home, you want 7. And then we have minis for pocket, purse, or backpack. These are about 1 pound bag crystals, and the minis are 2 to 3 ounces crystals. So you can put those, carry them with you. That's for on-the-go protection. So that's how we use them.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So to summarize it, I guess you don't need to actually physically be in touch with the bag. They can still be effective in, close proximity to the body, right?
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah, closer is always better. If you're fighting something, again, like you put it right on that area, will help it better than being further away. But to clear a bed, just have it touching the bed, or to clear a house, just have it on the floor, and you can be doing your stuff and your Wi-Fi's on. And now that frequency of the Wi-Fi, it's beneficial for you. You're not going to be zapped at the end of the day, when one's on your desk or just you have a bunch in your home. And one of the stories that I'll share is actually super profound. My wife had some early menopause stuff and night sweats, menstrual cycle stopped, and wasn't sleeping through the night for several months. When we put the grounding bags in, everything normalized, cycle returned. This stuff is it's just constantly chipping away at your life force. It's such a massive low-grade stressor. You don't start to see it until you're about ready to go into those different aging components. Then the aging accelerates so much faster. So it's wild to see how powerful getting grounded is for slowing down the aging process.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And again, like you said, it's that invisible stressor that a lot of people just neglect. Like everyone focuses on nutrition, exercise, maybe stress management, maybe like meditation, things like that. But again, like you said, that EMF side of things is very much neglected. And even my mom keeps on commenting on my setup that I've got here. And she mentions like, oh, have you thought about how much EMFs you're exposed to at your desk? Because I've just recently tried to upgrade my desk, and there's a lot of things going on. So I'm definitely going to get myself one of those, grounding bags, put it around my area with the earthing mat as well. But one thing I want to ask you, Justin, is I guess in relation to actual testing. So I know you mentioned there's certain devices where you can assess the EMF pollution of certain devices. Have you done any sort of testing on the grounding bags themselves, or how can you prove their efficacy, I guess?
Great question. So this is probably one of the biggest things, and everyone goes, hey, is it a blocking device where my meters change, when I'm reading it? And the answer is no, the meters won't change. And the reason is because we're not a blocking product. We're converting a waveform. Now, then you say, well, what meter can I get to meter it? And I say, well, there's no meter to meter chaos. So what we have to do is we have to look at measuring how does the body respond, because there's plenty of biomarkers that you can measure, from sleep to neurotransmitter, blood, pH, all these different components. So sleep has improved from our tests from 3 to 50%, depending on how healthy someone is to how sick they are. If someone has Lyme disease, and there are lots of mold in their area, Dr. Klinghardt says mold parasites are charged by EMF. So you're going to see people when they can repel that, and they're probably sleeping really poorly when they're sick. So they're going to get a higher percentage of sleep back. pH paper is one of the easiest things that you can do, Lucas. You can just grab it on your own and test your pH, then go stand in front of the smart meter for 3 minutes and then retest it. And you're going to see your pH drop, and then do your tapping, wait 10 minutes for each minute that you were in front of it, and then do the tapping protocol and then retest your pH, and you're going to be a healthier pH than before you even started. And so you can start to see these shifts. Dr. Berlando, the gentleman I mentioned before, one of my favorites, alphavedic.com, ALFAVEDIC, he did a waveform test. So he has these dual impedance antennas that measure your chi or your life force, and any distortion in it, that tells him what's going on with your body internally, because your blood is indicative of your chi. Chemistry second. So he tests your chi. Our grounding bags clinically passively treated up to 91% of the markers that were off with his patients, which is absolutely phenomenal. And that wasn't even doing any tapping. The girl that her thymus was decharged, she got 67% correction off the grounding bags passively with them around her. So again, the stuff, it repels of the static bag. It actually converts a waveform because the crystals, it can recharge the body because it has a grounding capacity, but it can passively treat you and get you healthier and then help facilitate getting you a deeper sleep. There's no other man-made product that can do that. And definitely, what I want to definitely share, Lucas, is right now we're at levels of like 50 times 5G. That's what our bodies are dealing with. And our bodies are so resilient. They're absolutely just unfathomably resilient. And they're just these healing mechanisms. But 50 times 5G, my goodness, like you get an infant or elderly or someone who's compromised, they're not as likely to heal when they're decharged. So we got to get them recharged. So, that's kind of what we're dealing with. But there's so many different tests that anyone could do with the grounding bags, and muscle testing through applied kinesiology. It's instant. Any AK doctors, any applied kinesiology doctors out there, you guys will absolutely be obsessed with these.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And you brought up one of my favorite doctors as well, Dr. Klinghardt, who I learned a lot from in terms of, mold exposure, Lyme disease. He talks about cystis T, which I love. I've got some right in front of me here. But yeah, I think it's really important that people start to acknowledge the damaging effects of EMF exposure. And one other thing I wanted to ask you, Justin, is when you sort of mentioned the proximity, so like the actual distance from, let's say, the offending device, is it true that it would make sense, right? The further back you are, or the further distance away from the device, the less damaging it would be?
Oh, definitely. Well, they have these absorption rate. They call it SARS rating on cell phones. So they don't even test it right here. They're always testing it way away from you. So definitely the closer you are to it, the taller you are with these towers, it'll come in and, get you more. There's definitely absorption ratings on these devices. So the proximity awareness is key. So when you can shut down your grid, your smart meter, and not be part of that Internet of Things, you're not going to be as likely to absorb it. You're going to be more likely to be able to heal. Yeah. So definitely we want to have that awareness of it for sure. And the wireless earbuds, I mean, that's an airway canal directly to your brain. There's no skull there, right? So you're getting localized radiation in your inner ear at 2.45 billion waves per second. That's a positive ionic charge. That's not going to be beneficial for that area over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. In terms of like some of the research studies, I know they might do most of the studies, I guess, in vivo or maybe in some animal models where they might assess the implications of Bluetooth. Let's say, for example, there's quite a lot of research on Bluetooth. But from just generally speaking, like EMF exposure, what sort of research have we seen in terms of it, triggering tumorigenesis or affecting just general metabolic functioning?
Oh, man. Well, the bioinitiative.org did a study, and they had a couple hundred scientists from over 40 countries, and they did thousands of studies, and it just all showed that there's tremendous cell and DNA damage. And they established these certain procedural levels, our governments did in 1998. And so this bioinitiative.org reset those standards. So it should be 1 milligauss or below for 5G. The GS units should be 50 or below, or 25 for kids. And then the acoustometer should read, I think, again, about at least 75 or 50 or below that. And you go, if I point, my phone's in here right now, you can see it. But if you point at a cell phone with a radio frequency meter, the meter will just meter out. It'll start screaming. You put it in here and it'll drop to those safe levels of, below 75, below 50. And so that's what we're looking at as far as the levels. But I'd encourage everyone to go to like cellphonetaskforce.org, the International Appeal to Stop 5G on the Earth and Space. So Arthur Furstenberg did, those studies and wrote the book, The Invisible Rainbow, but he's huge on sending out emails and big information on what's going on the planet. So much testing. I mean, literally the bibliography in The Invisible Rainbow, Lucas, is like 150 pages. I mean, it's the most well-researched and extensive book you'll ever read. And so he goes ahead and shares all these different topics. I did a podcast with Tom Cowan, MD. You can find it on BitChute. It talks about all these stressors and converting waveforms. And he cites all the different sources that you could find it, that there's countless studies. I think it was about 17,000 studies done for smoking before people started to realize it. And I think we're getting really close. We're probably about 15,000 now throughout all these different scientists. So, and then children'shealthdefense.org, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s foundation, he litigates against the FCC and pharma and, telecom. And so they sued the FCC and they won for the FCC to really look back at these levels that they're setting. So it didn't change anything, but they have to go back to the drawing board and relook at their studies and not sweep everything under the rug anymore.
Yeah. It's incredible stuff. So just to recap, Justin, let's sort of maybe refresh on some of the benefits that one can experience by incorporating these grounding bags into their lifestyle. So we're looking at improvements in sleep quality, reduction in, let's say, inflammation, improved antioxidant capacity, less DNA damage, I guess, maybe muscle soreness or recovery. Any other ones that are, common ones that people have seen benefits from?
Yeah, you covered a lot of great ones. I feel that the sleep kind of takes care of a lot of the others, and then just all those other injuries per se, but it'll help with these trickle down things of the cognitive skills, just having better focus. I marvel at the fact that these stadiums and arenas for professional sports are rolling out 5G stadiums and putting their names on, and these poor athletes, I mean, no wonder they're making mistakes and unforced errors and turnovers. I mean, They literally, they're the most groomed athletes, but when you're under attack in a stadium like that, we're going to see more injuries from these guys and then mistakes. Yeah. So, but to get back to it, yeah, I think we covered a lot of the benefits from it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible stuff. And just to also clarify, I mean, the most ideal scenario, let's say we're looking at the perfect sort of environment for, let's say, an athlete to flourish and to feel their best. It would be an environment where there's literally no EMF exposure or very minimal amounts. And then they're also making contact with Mother Earth. So they're consistently grounding. But let's say they're on the road, they're traveling, they're going to New York and things like that. You know, they're on their airplane. This is where, you know, these grounding bags can really come in from a convenience factor, right?
Definitely. And it's going to allow them to stay grounded and then keep their life force up. And the big thing is with the athletes is not everyone's a surfer and they're in that ocean getting that negative ion charge. Not everyone plays professional beach volleyball where they're barefoot. You know, most of these sports are in arenas where there's high levels of man-made EMF. And, you know, it's a stress on them. So they have to keep their life force up and be able to recharge and flush really well. So those mechanisms, you know, are going to be huge for them. Is that detoxing protocol and their recovery protocols have to be superior than anyone else's for them to keep strong. And I mean, you look at these Shaolin monks, they can live amongst, I've actually met one and talked to them and done classes with them. And I said, what do you think about this EMF stuff? And they're like, they're not fazed by it because all they do all day is breathe. Their chi, their life force is so strong, but we don't have that, you know, privilege to sit and breathe 11 hours a day and just focus on that for decades. So we're in a different situation. So we got to look to these other solutions that, you know, you can bring with you. One thing traveling wise, when you go through those x-ray machines where they're the circle ones, like, so I always encourage the athletes to opt out of those and get patted down, because if you're traveling and you're pro and you're traveling and you have, you know, 24 tournaments a year, no matter what sport you're in, especially PGA or, you know, any traveling sport will have, you know, a significant number. You accumulate that over, you know, 2 decades, that's, you know, 25, you know, times 2, that's 50, times 10, that's 500 more x-rays on your entire body in 1 year, private parts, brain, everything, than any normal person would ever have. And now when you go to get an x-ray, they localize it just in one specific area and they block everything out. You're giving them everything. So to have 500 x-rays in a decade everywhere is going to take its toll on you and age you quicker. So, you know, I encourage them to do that. When you're traveling, take the crystals out of this bag if you're carrying it on. The capsule of a plane will be really strong EMF. We've had diabetes clients that get bloody noses when everyone turns on the Wi-Fi in the plane and then normalizes when everyone falls asleep. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Just to think about that. I know Dr. Paul Saladino, I think he made a few videos on Instagram where he deliberately didn't want to get, you know, x-rayed when they walk through the airport. And firstly, I didn't even know that you could opt out. I would absolutely rather get pat down than go through x-ray. So do you literally just say, like, I prefer not to have my body x-rayed, or like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, just say, I'm going to opt out. And they go, okay. And so they can pat you down. So pregnant women, they don't even allow pregos through there, little kids through there, so they can opt out. So they get up and personal with you. And so, but hey, better that than, you know, several hundred x-rays in your private parts where we already know this, you know, ionizing levels of radiation will do for you. And now from the studies, we know even if they say it's non-ionizing, it still is ionizing. There's still a vibration. Obviously, the temperature will change over time. There's a thermal effect. The stuff is just, it's just different than how we were made. So we got to learn about how to prepare ourselves for it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'm definitely going to be leaving a link to, you know, those grounding bags. Was it emfrocks.com where people can find them? I'll leave them linked in the video description below. Was there any sort of final words, Justin, you wanted to sort of share or leave with my listeners?
Well, you're a naturopath, so I'm sure you do really well with the plants, the Bach flowers, remedies, and all the naturopathic medicine. You guys, so does our bodies. Most everyone's body does. And what I really want to emphasize is just get grounded by nature. That's the essence of healing. So get out, get barefoot, breathe that air, take in the sun. And you guys, you're in control of your health, not anyone else. And so we got to take these measures to keep our life force up. So make sure you get out there and get grounded by nature. And if you can't, make sure you're taking measures in your own home to make it a healthy home and get grounded by nature at home.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well said there, Justin. And just wanted to say thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome.